welcome everyone again to another Wednesday workshop. And as you see on the screen, we just have our standard disclaimer, which hasn't changed at all, so I'm not going to belabor this. But today's topic is essentially how to identify the strength or weakness in the market of a particular trend or a particular direction. And Zach will go into a couple of details of that. So that's a obviously very general topic, but we have some various techniques that we've noticed from other traders that use these different techniques and how we're going to actually implement them in Bloodhound. So today we've got a ton of stuff to go over, but again, as usual, if you have any questions, they take precedence over what we're presenting. So feel free to interrupt us at any time. Again, the whole point of this webinar is to make it an interactive workshop where you can ask and have anything that you want answered. So without further ado, I'm going to pass the mic over to Zach, who will take it over from here.
All right. Welcome everybody. Let me get my screen going here. All right. So while I'm waiting for my screen to start projecting, today's webinar is going to be on various ways to try and determine the trend strength and weakness. In other words, potential reversal type areas. So I'm going to showcase mainly the change in slope solver. We'll also play around with the inflection solver and the bar length solver towards the end there. So, okay, I think you guys can all see my screen now. If you guys could pop in a yes or a V if you can see the video, just to confirm. All right, great, thanks, Randy. Okay. All right, so yeah, so the change in slope solver is what we're going to be looking at here, and I'm going to demonstrate it on a couple of different indicators. The first one being the HMA, which is the red line here on the chart. So, let me start from the very beginning. So I already have Bloodhound on my chart. We can see that's the green bar indicator down here at the bottom. And we can see up here from the buttons that there's no template name set yet. So I'm going to double click on the indicator, and that brings up the indicator window. And I see it already has Bloodhound selected for me. So I'm going to name this. So when I click in this field, it produces a button, and I can click on that button, and then that will bring up the Bloodhound setup mode window. And for those of you who are new to Bloodhound, setup mode, the difference between what we call real-time mode, which you can access from this button on the chart. Setup mode has a chart button on it, so you can add alternate time frames. So if I click on the chart button, we can see there's an alternate time frame here, and I have available to me all of NinjaTrader's standard type of bar types there. So I could put this on a tick, and I could put this on a higher tick time frame, and there, just like that. So, all right, but I brought this setup mode so I could give it a name. So for the first time to instantiate a name, you have to bring up setup mode. So I'm going to hit the change button here, and it's going to bring up the save as dialog box, and I already have a template name started. Let's see, where is it? I thought I did. I'll just use this one and change the name. And it's the 20th. Alright. Hit save. Alright, and I'm going to click OK. And then click OK again. And now we can see the button up here changed its name to the name of the template that I gave it. So now if I click the button, it'll bring up the Bloodhound window, just like that. And this is what we call real-time mode. And you can see now that in real-time mode you don't have the chart button, so you can't add charts to the template in real-time mode. But what you can do in real-time mode is that when I start adding solvers to the list and modifying the solvers, the Bloodhound sub-panel down here will update in real time. Alright, so the first solver we're going to work with is the change in slope. So let me put that on the chart there. And so we can see as soon as I added it, it defaults, most of the solvers, they all default with the SMA. And we can see that the solver is analyzing the SMA 14 and then instantly put the results on the chart. So let me switch this over to the HMA. So I'm going to switch it over to the HMA 51 here. So, all right. So when you click in the indicator field, you'll notice that another button came up that I could click on, and that brought up the Bloodhounds indicator window. And from here, so let me back up a little bit. So one thing to note about all the indicators that you see on this list, you know, if you this will show all the indicators that are installed on your system, except for indicators that do not have any type of plot value coming out, or a data series or a bool series that Bloodhound can analyze. In other words, Bloodhound looks through all the indicators installed on your system and filters them out to only indicators that Bloodhound has a plot that can be analyzed on the list here. So there are a few indicators out there that, like indicators that would draw like a regression channel on your chart, and there's no plot because it actually draws the regression channel, then Bloodhound won't actually show that on your list because there's no data to analyze. So let me get back to loading up the HMA. I can double click on it, or I can hit the add new, and then HMA pops down here, and then I can modify the parameters to match what I have on the chart. And we can see that, you know, most moving averages only have a single plot out, and so it's already selected by default. Click OK, and now we can see the output changed. Alright, so let me go through and explain how the change in slope solver works. But first, I'm going to change the name of this. Just kind of some good working habits to do. That way all your solvers aren't named the same. There we go. Change the name. Alright, so what this change in slope solver is looking at is it's looking at the strength of the slope. So for example, let me just kind of look at this right here, and I'm going to exaggerate the y-axis. Right, so as soon as the indicator changes direction, the solver considers that like a very strong slope angle. So so at the initial turning point, that is when, well, and it also depends on your output that you have set here. So on the initial turning point, by default this solver is set up to give us an output of 1, and then as the slope weakens by default, you can see the values get smaller and smaller. So let me change the y-axis here. Okay, so as we look at this reversal back down, right, on the first bar that it actually completes the reversal down, starts sloping down, we get a 1. And then right here, we can't really see it, but what this is telling us, if we look at the output here, that the slope on this one bar, the slope of the HMA is a little bit less than the previous bars. It weakened a little bit. And then we can see as price drops, the angle on the HMA begins to steepen. And then as price comes back up, the angle on the HMA, I'm going to move my chart here, try and exaggerate this. So right here, the slope, or the angle, is starting to turn back up. And we can see on Bloodhound's output here that the output is beginning to weaken too, along with that. And then as soon as it reverses, once again, Bloodhound gives us 1 output. And then as the slope begins to weaken, then the output begins to diminish. And so I'm going to go through and kind of look at this behavior on various different indicators. Alright, so the next indicator I'm going to look at is the MACD. So let me slide this up. I already have this prepared. So this is the MACD histogram. So what I can do is I can copy this solver down, and I'm going to rename this to the histogram, and then go on here and change the indicator. And there's the MACD, and I'm just using the default settings. However, I want Bloodhound to analyze the histogram, which NinjaTrader calls the diff, which really is what it is. The histogram is really the difference between the MACD line and the average line. So it's just you take the MACD line minus the average and you end up with the diff. But it's commonly called the histogram because of the bar type that we see. Alright, and now you'll notice that the colors don't seem to be matching up, and that's because I have both solvers turned on right now. So if I turn off the solver with the HMA, now Bloodhound is only analyzing the histogram MACD. Okay. And I'm going to stretch the bars out here just help you guys visualize this. Alright, so right here in this area right here, you can see the histogram changes direction, and the output of the solver is a 1, and then as the slope weakens, it's kind of hard to see, I guess, as a histogram. Let me change the line type on this. So we'll change it from bar to a line. There we go. Alright, yeah, so that's a little easier to see that the angle on this line right here on this bar is not as steep as the previous bars. So the slope weakened a little bit, and we can see on the output of this solver drop down to 0.66. And let me bring up the Bloodhound window again. And so we can see that when it dropped down to 0.66, which is the output number 2, which is in direction but turning. And then if it kept turning, which it did, and that slope actually strengthened a little bit for one more bar, then it would drop down. It would have dropped down to 0.33. So let me see if I can find one of those examples on the histogram. Here we go, right over here. Let me kind of mark this. Okay, so right here at this point, we can see the angle is holding pretty steady. Could be even steepening a little bit, but then right here on this bar, we can see the angle it's weakening a little bit, so it's starting to, looks like it's starting to flatten out. And we can see the output here is starting to weaken, and then as it does it for a second bar, as the slope begins to weaken again for the second bar, the output of the solver goes to 0.33. So, all right, let's take a look at this solver on the ADX. So actually, raise this one. Okay, so here's the ADX. So to analyze the ADX, I'm just going to take this solver, copy it again, and I'll rename it. And change the indicator. ADX. And I'm just using the 14, I believe. Let's see. Yep, using the 14. Okay. Now we turn off the histogram solver there. There we go. All right. So if so for analyzing this point right here, you know, the initial turning point always gives us the strongest output of this solver, and then as the slope of the ADX begins to weaken a little bit, you know, the output diminishes, and then yeah, it looks like as we got this one down bar, right, one bar after the ADX, the slope of the ADX fell, or yeah, angled down a little bit more than the previous bar. So the angle strengthened a little bit, and we got back to, so the solver gives us an output of 1 again. And so as these bars are chopping around, we can see that happen a lot here. And then as price continues to keep moving up, we can see that the ADX, the slope of the line, is flattening out here. And then the output begins to diminish. Now you also see that what's happening is on the long side. So the long side, so as this angle is starting to flatten out on the long side is preparing for, you know, a long signal there, or an output of 1. And that is due to these two settings right here. Let me stretch this over so you can read it. Alright, so these number 4 and number 5 are opposite direction, but greatly turning, and then opposite direction but turning. So essentially opposite direction, meaning, right, so the angle is sloping down. So if you're in direction, that would be short, since the angle of the line is pointing down. So opposite direction, even though the angle of the line is pointing down, the opposite direction would be a long signal. So these two settings being in opposite direction, they are giving us, that's why they're giving us a long. All right, so let me let's kind of play around with some of these settings a little bit here. I'm going to go back to the HMA and play with some of these settings here. Alright, so if we're looking at the opposite direction output here, so like right in here, let me draw a circle and mark this. Oop. That's not a circle. There we go. So if we look at this area, so we can see as the HMA, the slope begins to strengthen and drop, becomes steeper down. We can see that the output of the solver produces 1 again, and then as the slope begins to turn, right here the slope begins to weaken and flatten out and turn. We can see the output diminishing, and the output of the long side is beginning to rise. So I can control that by setting this to 0. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the long output here, because the long output is in the opposite direction of the indicator. Set this to 0. Set that to 0. Alright, now we can see the long side. The long output is gone. Right. So if I wanted to, I could set this to 0.5. And now we have 0.5 there. So this solver gives you kind of like 3 degrees of angle measurement. Let me play with this a little bit more. Give you guys some more examples here. So say like this greatly turning. So I set that to 0, 0.5, and now we kind of really change the output of the solver greatly. So essentially, what the solvers are pretty much marking now is just kind of like the reversal points, and you'll see that this is behaving a lot like the inflection solver behaves now. All right, so with that, let me bring up the inflection solver. Oh. There we go. And I'm going to change this. I'm going to put the HMA in here. So let me rename this solver. And then change the indicator. Change the period to 51. All right, and there we go. And so, and let me turn off the turn off the change in slope solver. There. So now all we're looking at is the inflection solver. So we can see here that right the bar immediately after the reversal, we're getting one signal. So it's just for the bar immediately afterwards. Now if we want to, we can extend this output for, I guess, essentially as many bars as we want to. So I could put 10 bars in there. So you can see it extends the signal out 10 bars. And then another key feature about this is I can decrease the output as the bar ages. So I can decrease it by 0.1 every bar after the initial bar. And so we can see here the output is decreasing by 0.1. And this, the reason why this feature is in here is because this is a part of the fuzzy logic that's built into Bloodhound. So alright, so afterwards, after the indicator changes direction, right, you probably don't necessarily want a strong signal for 10 bars, especially if you're applying it to like the stochastics or something where it's always changing directions. For example, like here's the stochastics, right? So it's always bouncing around up and down, right? So you may not want, you may want a signal for 10 bars, but using the fuzzy logic, you kind of need the output to begin to weaken, as the reversal point ages. So let me kind of show you the comparisons here. So this is the change in slope solver. So you can see it's kind of acting like the way I have it set up right here, with only the strong indirection set and everything else zeroed out. It's acting kind of like the inflection solver, marking our reversal points. And then once again, here is the inflection solver. And you'll see that most of the solvers, this is just kind of a general overview of Bloodhound, most of the solvers have an output against direction. And so if I do this, if I put a 1 in here, you'll see against direction, so it's giving me a short output now. So actually if I set the indirection to 0, you'll see it reverses the signals. So instead of giving me a long signal now, I'm getting a short signal, because the short would be against the direction of the indicator. So the indicator is sloping up now, but Bloodhound's output is giving me a short. Let me set this back to general default. There we go. All right. Let's look at this same solver on the other indicators they have on the chart here. So we'll put the MACD in there, MACD histogram. So I'm going to copy that, rename it. Down to the Mr. All right, there's the MACD, and I want to use the difference here. Select that. Okay, yeah, so on the histogram, you probably want to do something like a smoothing of it, because as you can see, the histogram is pretty choppy. A lot of reversal points everywhere, and so we could smooth this out, and let me show you how to do that. Alright, so I'm going to go into the indicator and I'm going to do some nesting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to nest the SMA into that, and we'll see what kind of effect it has. It may not have as strong of an effect as I want, because remember, the histogram is a derivative of the actual MACD line. But just to kind of show you an example so you can do your own experimenting, because remember, part of the beauty of Bloodhound is how quickly you can analyze, different, different techniques. How quickly you can try and build a new filter for your system and analyze different ways of, looking at your indicators, smoothing indicators out. Whatever you think you would work best with what system you have going. Alright, so I have the MACD down here already, and I have the SMA selected. Now don't double click. If you double click, it will replace the MACD. So what you want to do is just a single click to select the SMA, and then hit the nested. Alright, and then really what I want to do is just try and use a period of 1 or 2, sorry. And yeah, we can see it's smoothing out a little bit, not a lot. So let me try. I'm going to change. Actually, so we have a comparison. Let me add another MACD on the chart here. That way we'll have a smooth version and a non-smooth version. Oh, let me change the bar type. There we go. Okay. I'll move this up so it's next to the other one. There, now we have a good comparison. So visually, it doesn't look like it changed a whole lot, but very subtle. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is actually kind of change the order in which I have my nesting. Alright, so select the solver, and so you can see I have the SMA feeding into the MACD. And so this time, let me take the SMA, down there, and then take the MACD, feed it in, and I'll set that to period of 2. Now you'll notice here that when I select the MACD, I can't actually select the plots, which plots are going into it right now. That we're actually going to, this will be an upcoming upgrade to this, where you'll be able to select what output. So if you have an indicator like the MACD that has 3 outputs, yeah, you can see right now we can't select which output is going into the SMA. But that will be coming, available soon. So, so I believe what's the MACD line is what actually will be feeding into the SMA. So let me switch this over. If I set that to red, That's right. So I need to also change this to match. So let's see here. So I need to feed. I need to feed the SMA. See if I can get NinjaTrader to do this. Alright, so I want to feed the SMA into the MACD. Actually, no. I want to feed the MACD into the SMA. And get this straight here. Alright, put this on the right panel. And alright, go find the MACD here. There we go, MACD. And okay, so the plot is the MACD. Okay, so now we should have MACD, there we go, feeding into the SMA. Let's hit apply and take a look at this. There we go. And I want to change the period to 2. Okay, so there. So now we can see we fed the MACD into the SMA, and the SMA smoothed it out a little bit. And so let me bring up Bloodhound. Let me just kind of do this comparison, and I see there's some questions popping up here. I'll start addressing those. Yeah, so there. All right. So let me adjust the inflection solver just to 1. Look back. There. Okay. So there. Now we can see Bloodhound is marking all the reversal points or reflection points, and let's see if so let me copy. Yeah, I'm going to copy this. So this one is smooth. So let me call this a histogram SMA because it's been smooth. And then this one, I will undo the smoothing. That way we'll have a comparison. Let's go down to the MACD. Now you can see I have, the MACD nested into the SMA. Now if I just double click on the MACD, it clears the whole thing out, and it just puts the MACD down there. And we're looking at the MACD line in this case. Alright, so let me, so we have, alright, so let me turn off the smooth one. Okay, so this is just the MACD unsmoothed. And let's see, yeah, we have three reversals here. And I think if I use the smooth one, yep, now we're down just to just 1 reversal. So let me mark this for you guys. Alright, so that's what we're talking about. So if we look at the white line, which is smooth, let me reduce this. So the white line is the one that is smooth with the SMA. Now if I turned on just the MACD line, we can see that we filtered out this bouncing around here. Let me go back. Yeah, even over here. So let me show this over here. So this is the smooth version, and then here's the unsmooth version. So kind of got off topic a little bit, but you know, these are kind of some of the fun and I guess extreme things that you can do with Bloodhound fairly simply. So, all right, let me take a look at some of these questions here. Let's see. Zach, isn't ADX usually just a non-directional indicator of trend strength? Correct, Anna. Yes, it is. Right. So when I was looking at the ADX, right, essentially, right, when the ADX is moving up, that means price is moving in the same direction, or the trend of price is getting stronger, right? And so as the ADX starts to fall down, that means the trend is weakening, right? So we can see here that clearly the trend is down, and so on this next move down, we can see the ADX is moving up as price continues the trend, and then as price bottoms out and begins to move back up, we can see that the ADX is telling us that the trend is weakening. So yeah, you know, this may not be a realistic example of using you know, of putting this in a trading system here using the change in slope of the ADX, at least not in this way, because yeah, essentially whenever the ADX is rising, you know, if you're with trend moving down, you would want Bloodhound to give you a short output, and that can be done. There is an example of that up on the support forum of how to use the ADX to both give you a long signal and short signal at the same time. So when the ADX is rising. So there is an example of that on the support forum. It's going to be one of the older ones, so you have to look way back, probably back into March or early April for that example. All right, Bob, does Bloodhound have a zero lag smoother? Bob, Bloodhound has a few indicators that come with it, but Bloodhound itself really doesn't do the smoothing. It's the indicators that you already have on your system, right? So as you saw when I fed the MACD into the SMA, right? So you know, Bloodhound didn't do that smoothing. The SMA indicator actually did that smoothing of it. So, you know, to directly answer your question, Bob, the answer would be no. I would suggest on Ninja's forum, on their support forum, or on Big Mike's support forum, there's a whole bunch of various types of zero lag smoothers, such as the zero lag EMA. You know, if I pull up my list of indicators, and just to let you guys know, we don't pass out these indicators because we're not the owner, we're not the author, so we don't have the copyright to them. But I can tell you all the indicators I have on here, I found them either on Ninja's site or on Big Mike's site. So you can see here there's a bunch of zero lag type indicators, the EMA, the HATEMA, oh, that's right, the Heikin-Ashi triple EMA, another zero lag triple EMA. Yeah, so Bob, just go find the zero lag indicator that you want and just let it do the smoothing for you. All right, so Randy, let's see. when you nest the indicator, it changes the actual indicator plot as well, not just the Bloodhound calculation. Well, let's see, Randy, I'm not sure exactly what I was working on when you asked that question, but you know, Bloodhound doesn't change the indicator plot. So that's why I had to go through and put this third MACD on there so that you could see the smoothing effect of the MACD. Because Bloodhound doesn't actually draw the indicators. The output that Bloodhound gives you is this output down here, just telling you, the strength of your solvers and your conditions. And Randy, you've got another question here. So, oh, never mind. I see Zach now sitting. All right, thanks, Randy. Okay, I'm going to take a drink of water, and next I'm going to move on to the bar length. I talk a lot about big mics, but that's just because it's a great resource. And I don't remember the author's name or the trader's name, but there's a webinar up there. The guy who is well known for analyzing price action, and one of the simple analysis that he does is, I think he works with a 5-minute chart. So I'm going to switch over to a 5-minute chart, and he's looking for strength and price action, basically based on a long bar movement. And so I have the CL on here, so let's see. There we go. I guess this is a good example. So he likes to look for a long move in the direction that he's looking to trade as a signal of strength. How strong that move could be going on into the future. And so as we can see, that looks like price almost moved twice as far. So if you take the length of this bar, we can see that price moved up again that same length, but in multiple bars. So I'm going to kind of show how you can use the bar length solver to filter out these long bar movements as as a potential indication of strength, in the continuing moves of price. Let me put the bar length on here, and so what we can do is I can set the max range to 3, and I'm going to set this at 2 ATRs. And so with this solver, you'll notice it defaults to ATRs, whereas most of the other solvers default to ticks. And that's because really, if you're looking for a long bar movement, you really want to put it in context with the previous bars, right? Which means you would want to use the ATR. So we can see here that it marked a couple of bars here, some significant bars. And so all of these bars essentially are going to be 3 ATRs of the previous bars. So Bloodhound's going to start calculating at 2 ATRs. And then as we get to 3 ATRs, then essentially that's when the background is going to be painted. That's when Bloodhound is going to give us an output of 1 and then paint the background. So we can see on this bar right here, it was a pretty significant move, but it wasn't quite 3 ATRs. And we can see right down here, it's this bar right here. It almost reached our threshold, but not quite. And then as the bars kind of, length of the bars, shrunk a lot, then we can see this bar here managed to give us a signal. Even though it doesn't look as long as this bar, but apparently the previous bars before it, I guess, just what's the word I'm looking for? The range of the previous bars here were just longer than these bars. So yeah, I'd say with the CL, we're looking at the CL here. This is pretty common with the CL around 7 o'clock my time. So this is mountain time. Yeah, it seems to be pretty common around this time in the morning for the CL market to make a big pop in some direction. All right, let's all right, so next, kind of keeping in line with looking at candle bars and price action, I'm going to show you how to use the candlestick pattern indicator. So let me add that indicator onto the chart. And so one of the common candlesticks that most people learn is to look for a, let's see, I believe it's the hammer and shooting star. If I remember, it's been a while. So I'm going to look for a hammer. And I'm going to change the color so we can see this. Now, because I turned the color on, I had to put this in its own panel here. All right, let me move this up. Yeah, I'll shrink all these down. All right, so we can see that this indicator gives us a value of 1 when it detects a candlestick pattern here. We can see it right over here as well. Right, so if you're a candlestick trader and you're looking for potential reversal points, these hammers are known to be a common key pattern to look for reversals, for the market to reverse from a downtrend to an uptrend. And so we can use Bloodhound with this indicator to mark these points for us. So I'm going to bring up Bloodhound. And since this indicator is just marking either 0 or 1, I'm going to use the threshold solver for this one. Alright, so I'm just going to call it candle. And I'll change my indicator over. set my parameters. Let's look for the hammer. Alright, there's only one plot output, so that's good. Click OK. And so my threshold, I can set that to 1, or usually I put a little bit less since I know the output goes to 1, just to build in a safety factor. Let's put it in 0.99. And essentially this pattern is usually looking for a reversal to the long side. So I'm just going to tell Bloodhound just to only give me a long output at that threshold. Alright, and let me turn off the other solvers, and there we go. Now we can see Bloodhound's marking these particular candlestick patterns. Yeah, if I knew some of these other patterns for looking for bullish signals or bearish signals, I'd plug them in too, but it's been a long time since I've done candlestick patterns. So let me see. Let's see. I think Randy has another question here. Is the ADX change in slope affecting the bar length output? Oh, yeah. You know what, Randy? That's right. That might have been the case. Let's see. Thank you, Randy. Jeremy and I have noticed you're very observant. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the bar length. So I'm going to go back to the bar length solver here. Alright, yeah, this does look a little different now. Yep. So, yeah, we have some more signals here, because I think I did have some other solvers checked. Yeah. Yeah, so we can see with this hammer here, that this solver is looking at the overall length of the bar, not just the open to close. So with the newer release of Bloodhound coming out, we've changed one of our built-in indicators. Let me show you. So I put an older version of Bloodhound on for this webinar, so that way my templates will load up with the version that's released out there. But we're about to release a new version of a new update to Bloodhound, and what it's going to do is change this high-low bounds, and there's actually going to be some more prices in here, or candle bar prices, so we can see that the open's not in here and the close. And so this is going to be renamed to the SI Chameleon, and it'll also allow you up here in the parameters to set other instruments, so you can actually look at other instruments and time periods with the SI Chameleon. Right, so this SI high-low bounds is going to change its name to the SI Chameleon, and it'll have that multi-time frame and multi-instrument capability built in, and others, and other prices to look at. And so it's going to look at the open. It'll have the open there for you. And so with that indicator, you could actually use the comparison solver. There it is. You can use the comparison solver to compare the actual body of the candle. So you could compare the close to the open, and that way, so if you're looking for, you know, price action, and you want to filter out these wicks, right? You could use the comparison solver to compare the close to the open, and you know, in which case you could see that this bar would be marked, but this hammer wouldn't be marked. So that'll be coming out pretty soon. Let's see. Well, that pretty much sums it up. If you guys have any questions, feel free. If you guys have a microphone, we can turn your microphone on, and you can ask your question. But essentially, this is probably our shortest workshop yet, and that kind of wraps it up for the demonstration I had for today. Let me see if Jeremy, do you have anything to add to this?
No, I think we're good, Zach. I haven't seen any new questions come in, so I guess what we could do is...
Okay, yeah, Dan, there's a few questions. So Dan, we're speculating that the update will probably come out next week. So we'd like at least, we just recently made some few minor changes to it yesterday. So we'd like at least a week for me and for us to test it out. So
yeah, actually, I'll just interrupt real quick here and say, actually, Dan, we've been looking for early next week, early July. Just because, again, we want to make sure that whenever we release something, it's been thoroughly tested. So early July, I think, is probably a more conservative answer for that.
Yeah, so Bruce, there are quite a few little things that you guys won't see, but it's just kind of behind the scenes stuff that we're updating. So, and Anna, thank you very much. All right. Well, no other questions, guys.
Hi, Martin. The easiest way to get the updates is actually just simply to download it again. But there is a bit of a shortcut as well. Whenever there's a new update, I actually email everybody on the mailing list, and that mailing list will have a direct shortcut to the download. So that's another way to get it as well. Otherwise, there's on our website, you just hit the download button. Alternatively, if you want, you can go to the news, Bloodhound News, and we typically post the changes with each update, and usually below in the post there will be actually a download link as well. There really is only one link. We always just update the link to the most current version. So.
Mm-hmm. All right, and so for any of you new people in the room, I'd like to kind of wrap this up with our support. So for those of you who use Skype, if you want, you can add me to your Skype, Zach White SI. And so if you see me online with this Skype handle, that means I'm available for any kind of questions that you have. You know, if means I'm just available for instant chat or instant support. We can, you know, if we need to, we could start up our GoToMeeting, and we can do screen sharing. You know, whatever you need. So typically you'll see me online usually during the weekends or something like that. And also, let me bring over the website here. Let's see. So if we go to support and contact us, and okay, contact us. On the contact us page, there we go. You'll see there's a one-on-one help, so if you'd like to actually book an appointment with me, then you can use this, and allows you to actually lock in a one-on-one support time with me, and we'll use GoToMeeting so we can do screen sharing, and it's for whatever kind of help you need with Bloodhound. Alright. And let's see. And if you need to, if you'd like to schedule a time with Jeremy, then you can send him an email at jeremytang@sharkindicators.com. So if for some reason my time slots don't work with your schedule, then you can always email Jeremy as a backup. So, all right, see, there's some questions coming in. Let me kind of scan through these real quick. Randy's making a joke there. So Martin is saying the links in the emails aren't working for you. Well, Martin, if you could forward that concern on to Jeremy, we'll take a look at that. And if you could tell us exactly what's not working, is the link just not taking you to a valid web page, or is it just the file's not downloading for you? If you could send us an email with a little more detail so we could help find out what's going on, I'd really appreciate that. And Kumar, yes, there's always a template for all of our webinars. So that's why I typically I run the latest test release on my system, but today I downgraded so that way my template file that I have here will be compatible with the one that you guys have. And so yes, this webinar will be posted up on the site. You can go to Bloodhound, learn Bloodhound, and go to the webinars. And you can see all the webinars here. And so if you like Noel's Trading Room was a pretty popular one. I'll click on that one, and you'll see. So there you can watch the video there. And then these buttons here are the download for the template files. So the green ones are the Bloodhound ones, and the red buttons are for the chart templates. And so I always save these. You can see I always save them and I name them, accordingly. So this is a workshop with today's date. So Martin, yeah, maybe you're at work, I'm guessing, if you have a firewall issue. But and I guess in this extreme situation, Martin, yeah, why don't you send us an email, and maybe we can send you the latest release. If you don't have it, we can send it to you by email. All right. Okay, guys. With that, think I'll wrap it up here. Thanks for attending, and we hope to see you guys next week. And you know, if you get stuck on something, please don't hesitate to, you know, contact me. You know, set an appointment with me or send us an email. All right. So remember, it's all free. So take advantage of it. All right. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.